Hit record. Welcome to the show, Maria. I am so excited to have you on.
Thank you so much, Megan. I'm so excited to be here.
We were just talking before I hit record about how you got into this space, and I wanted to hit record so that we had a background of people being able to understand why you got into this space. But for just the audience, I would love if you could give a quick bio of who you are and where in the world you are currently joining me from today.
Yes, of course. So my name is Maria. I'm a makeup artist and also a green beauty expert, and I'm based in Toronto, Canada.
I love it so much. So, a makeup artist, and I know you're the founder of Green Beauty Curator and all that stuff. And before we hit record, you were saying you were doing like theatrical almost makeup in Vancouver.
Mhm.
What led you on this path of switching everything to green beauty? Because it's such a big topic now, and I think a lot more people are starting to understand why it's so important that we switch to clean beauty.
Yes, for sure. And, as someone who has spent 20 years of their lives in and out of the beauty world and also in education, for me, yes, of course, I was trained for film special effects theater. And I've done, the spa, and I've done the short films, and I taught children special effects makeup in South Korea. And the world I lived in when it came to beauty and makeup was not the world I'm living in today. And I know we were just chatting about that. And for me, it wasn't until I became a mom with my second boy, who's now almost 8. He turns 8 in March. And, having him be my second and being like, yeah, like, I got this. Like, I know what I'm doing. This is not my first kid. He's my second kid. Yes. And this little guy was born with such severe sensitivities to his skin, right from the get-go. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do about this. None of us have sensitive skin. I don't have eczema, neither does my husband, neither does my first one. And it was really, by kind of looking through things on how to help him, I really didn't know what to do. His skin was so inflamed. And you know how the babies have those little chubby rolls? It was red inside that, and his face and his scalp and just everything. And I took him to Sick Kids Hospital here in Toronto, and I had a senior dermatologist. You could tell this man has been doing this, forever. And he said to me, you need to cover your baby from head to toe in Vaseline. And I don't know what it was, Megan. No disrespect to this, skin professional that was standing in front of me, but just my stomach just turned. I had such a strong reaction to what he was saying to me. And I was like, okay, that's it. I need to understand why he's recommending this. And is there another way? My son was prescribed the hydrocortisone, and then I was told to do Vaseline, and I just became obsessed. This thing just took over my life on finding out why he's saying to me, use Vaseline, to understand it better. What is this recommendation he's giving me? And then, is there a way to do it like in a different way? At the time, I didn't even know that Vaseline comes out of the oil industry, right? It's a petrochemical. So then I found that out, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is telling me to lather my child in Vaseline. And it kind of just snowballed from there. The more I read, the more obsessed I became in how I could take care of him in a way that it wasn't Vaseline, right? So looking to all the alternatives, looking at all the, the information that was out there, and just trying to understand it so I could do better for him.
I there's so many questions I want to ask you, but when you brought up the Vaseline, I don't know if you've noticed on TikTok this trend of like slugging the face with
Oh,
Vaseline. And the moment I saw it, I was like,
yes.
why are we telling people to do this? Is the
Yes.
most horrific thing we could be telling people to do. And so many beauty influencers were talking about it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't believe we're promoting this. This is just like I mean, it's not it's one of the worst things I think we can do because yeah, it's like it's Vaseline, it's a pore clogger, it's petrochemicals, it's like
Yeah.
it's just I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even know that much about it, but initially when I saw it, I was like, this feels so wrong. And then I looked into it and I was like, oh, this is way, way wrong.
Yeah. And you shared with me just before we got on that you have dry skin. So you would be the perfect candidate for Vaseline, as was my son. So the reasons behind it is that Vaseline is an occlusive. An occlusive is something that you apply on the skin and it kind of seals the skin and hydration. Like, so the moisture that your skin has is sealed in. And, you know, Vaseline, yes, is cheap. It's been around for a long time, but in the end, we're still supporting the, petroleum, the oil industry by using these types of products. And I know it's like triple cleansed and this and that and purified, blah, blah, blah. It still comes from it. It's a petrochemical. So that's one thing. So there could be a lot of different reasons here on the things that I say why you might choose not to use it. Like, that's one. The other thing too is like it's 2023. We have so many alternatives. There's no reason to use Vaseline. So for me, what I did when I found out what it was, and yes, okay, now I get it. You want me to completely cover him from head to toe in Vaseline to trap that moisture into his skin because he has severely dry skin, eczema, irritation, like all of that. But shea butter does the same thing. So why would I not use shea butter, which is a natural product? And why would I use Vaseline? The other thing that was of concern to me is that if I create this barrier onto his skin, and I kind of trap, can you hear the vocabulary I'm using when it comes to your face? Okay, this is like a little, like, it was like a chubby baby that I'm doing this on, little, like, just like lather him up. Okay, great. But it's like, if you're kind of creating this coating, this seal onto his skin, so you don't have anything escape, are you not also prohibiting things from entering? So for him to absorb other nutrients on his skin, like let's say, I don't know, let's say I wanted to slather him in olive oil, or I wanted to, to do some other alternatives. Like it didn't really make sense to me to kind of treat his skin like that,
I would love to even back right up and talk about
Mm-hmm.
like how toxic can our skincare and makeup be? Because I think it's something that clean beauty just seems like for some people it's like it's a trend work. It's this expensive stuff. You don't really need it. You can get everything, but you can get by with drugstore
Yeah,
brands. And I mean, it was a great discovery, and at the same time it's been like, oh my, it's been very overwhelming. But I discovered the Think Dirty app, and I
yeah,
would run my stuff through it, and it was like there are so many carcinogens and
yeah,
hormonal disruptors. And I know in Canada we're a little bit more lucky in the sense we have a little bit more regulation and compared to the USA, but I don't think people really realize how toxic
yeah.
certain conventional brands can be.
Yeah, and I think also being our proximity to the USA, we also share a lot of brands. Like we're not doing it as well as Europe. We're not doing it as well as Japan. There's ingredients that have been banned on that side of the world that we're using a lot of American brands. And most of the brands that we're using are American. And that's why for me, I made it a mission to only carry Canadian brands on my site. Right. So we have other ways to support Canadian product makers and get to know their stuff. In terms of, the industry kind of flipping, I mean, like, why wouldn't they? They see now that people are interested in this on this cleaner side. They're like, yeah, okay, like, so we can all make money from this. Do you need to buy, like, I don't know, $100 serum? You don't. But it's the beauty industry and people still want to buy the big brand name. And it was the same with the conventional industry. People still want to buy, I don't know, the Yves Saint Laurent, or they still want to buy Chanel. And, from stuff that I've looked into, all that money is going to marketing. Like that serum or the night cream, Lancome, all of that, it's like $120, $150 for a moisturizer. $5 will go into the ingredients. So do you really, but it's really up to you. I think as women, we want that sense of luxury. And unfortunately for us to have that, a lot of it is this brand name that's been around forever, that has this insane reach worldwide, and whoever's behind the brand, the money goes there. It doesn't go into the ingredients, or it goes into the fancy jar that you're going to hold in your hands and feel elevated, or like, oh, I'm using, I don't know, Charlotte Tilbury. Well, it's talc. Do you need to use a powder that's Charlotte Tilbury? You're gonna go pay, I don't know, $550 or something like that. It's talc. Like, you don't. I think it's just our misconception that something that is a high-end brand name is better.
Mm-hmm.
So
What is exactly clean beauty for anybody who is like, I've heard the term,
yeah,
I kind of get it, but like, does it mean it's all natural? Does it mean it's just like it doesn't have certain
yeah,
chemicals in it? Like for somebody who's like, I don't even really understand what it means. Can you explain like what it
yeah,
means a little bit more?
for sure. Because there's so much like similar terminology flying around, and it's like, well, what's the difference? Like, what's the difference? Clean beauty, green beauty, natural, organic. Like there's so many different terms. And the way I've explained it in the past is that for a clean beauty product, so a lot of people now are like, yeah, we're a clean beauty brand, clean at Sephora, for example, they have their own standard of what is not in it. So the focus here when it comes to the product or the brand is what's not in it, not what's in it. It's a very fine play on the words. Not what's in it, what's not in it. And really, as a consumer, you should be asking yourself, well, what's in it? Then you have the green brands, and more like clean, or not clean, green and natural. The focus there is what's in it. It's such a fine tuning of those words. But when you say what's in it and it's a green brand, the focus here is on natural, like coming from nature, from the earth. There's like plant butters, plant oils, that type of thing. So with clean beauty, the focus of why they focus on what's not in it is because they focus on the ingredients that they remove to tell you, hey, like we're not using petroleum derived ingredients. We're not using parabens, and we're not using this and that, which, could be harmful to you, your health, your skin. So, but when you think about the ingredients that are not in it, shouldn't your question be like, well, what did you put in it then? Because when you've removed those things, something has to replace them. And then the green brands, it's like, well, we don't use synthetic, like, I don't know, like lab made, or not that that's bad, but that's their focus. They're calling themselves a green brand, natural brand. The focus is on what they put in it, which will be focused around kind of green plant ingredients.
It makes so much,
Yeah.
yeah, it makes so much sense. It was funny because I actually heard a doctor relating to like health food, and he was talking about gluten-free. Like everybody's like, I need gluten-free, gluten-free. And he's like,
Right.
that's fine, it's perfect. But you have to ask yourself, what are they replacing in
Yeah.
in a like
Yeah.
as an ingredient to make it gluten-free? Like sometimes it's totally legit, and other times it's like, no, it's not gluten-free, but we've
Yeah.
added in all these other things to counteract all of that.
Exactly. And it's the same thing with the preservatives. Like parabens have been around for a very, very, very long time. That means they have been excessively studied. They removed the parabens from a lot of things because everybody now is just freaking out about the parabens. And I think in the end, it has to be kind of like a personal choice, like I'm not going to, vilify any ingredients today, but I've seen horrific things happen to people's skin because they removed the paraben, and now, I don't know, the dish soap or the laundry soap has something else because the paraben is a preservative. So what are you going to use as a preservative now? So they're using these new ingredients as preservatives that I've seen from personal experience to someone close to me, like a rash, like head to toe, and couldn't pinpoint it because you're like, but I'm using a clean dish soap, right? I'm using a clean laundry soap. And it took so long for this individual to pinpoint, what it was, until they had allergy testing. And then it's like, it's this thing. where is it in your house? And it was the dish soap and the laundry soap. And, and that's why the rash wasn't ever going away, because it's like, we do the dishes daily. We do the laundry on a regular. So just as an example.
Is there anything that we should be looking for if someone's like, okay, like I'm gonna start switching to more green beauty,
Yeah.
but I don't even know where to start. Like you were saying about, the clean line at Sephora. A lot of people are like, perfect. They've taken the guesswork out of things for me. I can just shop all the clean
Mm-hmm.
products at Sephora, and maybe they're removing certain things from it, which is fantastic, but we also don't necessarily know what's in it. So is there like
Right.
ways that you think we can figure it out, or if someone's like, I just want to be able to go somewhere and
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
clean beauty without doing all this research, because I don't know what any of this means anyways, and I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I think like Sephora, I mean, look, it's like massive beauty body, right, out there, and they won't know be able to include all these brands, right, to kind of say, yeah, we have a section for this, but they still carry all the other stuff. I mean, that's smart. This is just business, right? They're gonna, of course, have a section. Everyone has done it now. My supermarket added an organic aisle. They didn't have that before. Right. So we are going in that direction, and consumers want this. So of course it's smart for them to say clean at Sephora, little check mark. And again, but they have their own criteria. Like I think, and I'm pretty sure, I'm like 95% sure, there's still fragrance in those. Like that's not one of the things. And it's not like they're eliminating yet. They're just choosing brands that don't have those ingredients. But I still think, for example, that fragrance is one of them that like they still include the brands that use a synthetic fragrance. So how clean is a really big question. And I think that's when it comes down to, personal choices. For me, because I always like to keep things, I don't know, attainable for people and not confusing. Like fragrance would be the number one thing to remove. You do not need it. You do not need it in anything. It doesn't add anything to your cosmetics. And fragrance or perfume is such a massive umbrella term that you could have like 300 perfume ingredients. Like, how do you know what's in there? And because it's protected by law, you can never find out what's hidden under that little term that you see, fragrance. That's not one ingredient that you see on your, I don't know, powder. I've seen it in mascara. Why would there be fragrance in mascara? And a lot of these fragrance ingredients are added to mask the scent of other things they put in there. Right? Like, are you smelling your lashes? No, you're not. So I think as a consumer, you're going to pick up the jar and you're going to look, does it have fragrance, perfume fragrance? And I would start there.
What about essential oils when it comes to it? Because I'm the same. I'm the most boring person when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to things. Like my dish soap is unscented, my laundry soap is unscented. I,
Yeah.
I remember being somewhere and a girl actually joked to me. She was like, "Oh, you're not a very exciting type of scent person, are you?" And I was like, "No, I just don't know what's in it." So it's unscented everything. But you
Yeah.
know that now there's this, like, people are like, "Well, we're adding essential oils," and I've always been under the impression of like, you don't necessarily know what it's doing to the skin or ingesting it, how
Yeah.
how it reacts for certain people. Like, are we putting in a lot of essential oils? Is it a little bit? Like, I,
Yeah.
I find that for me personally, like a fine line of like, I don't know, is if I don't see fragrance on a product, but I do see essential oils, is that
Right.
okay, or is that equally kind of concerning?
So so for you, for sure, it's personal as well. If you don't want like scent, and scent, now I'm going to talk about scent, just like essential oil or synthetic. Some people are scent people. You walk into their house, they have those plugins or the thing diffusing or whatever, right? And it's such a strong sense. It transports you, it creates an experience. And this is the reason why people like it, right? um but definitely there are so many studies that have been done into that. Like, those would be your prime hormone disruptors, right? There's so many studies that go into the synthetic fragrances. You can go check David Suzuki's website. You could go check other sources. But I think with the essential oils as well, again, it's going to be personal. And, if you are someone who is pregnant or sensitive, you got to know what's in there. What is a contraindication for pregnancy? I worked in a spa. Our massage therapists never used essential oils when we had a pregnant client come in. It's a contraindication. You can go online and very quickly Google it for pregnancy, which essential oils to avoid. So, if you are pregnant, I would start there. If you are sensitive, I've had clients who are allergic to flowers. So that means no chamomile, no lavender, right? So we have to just be really conscious of the fact that essential oils, maybe that oil is not bad for me, but it could be bad for you. So, they do create a nice experience. Like if you buy an unscented dish soap, you could, go to the health food store and buy a little bottle of lemon or orange essential oil and add it to your dish soap. At least you know what you're putting in there. I make my own like window spray, right? Or all-purpose cleaner. And I have essential oils and I kind of just rotate through them. I put essential oils on my dryer balls because we don't use dryer sheets. So that type of thing, right? Because of course, they do smell amazing and they do transport you and they create a beautiful experience. And I think that is what's so big about using a green brand. That scent actually has aromatherapy benefits, right? And that's why the experience, using a synthetic fragrance cream versus something that's more natural with essential oils, you're going to know the difference. Because of how it makes you feel. So I definitely think they are an amazing thing to use, but it has to be right for you. And if you prefer it as unscented, there's nothing wrong with that. Because using a regular, a regular laundry soap and having your clothing smell 2 weeks later, you gotta wonder what it is that makes it linger like that. Right? And that's when the phthalates come in, and phthalates are hormone disruptors. So there are so many alternatives out there, and I think people are more educated now. People know what they want, and people know a thing or two. But in the end, it has to be the right choice for you and your family and your household.
No, I couldn't agree more with you about that. And
Mhm.
something about when people have those like plugins, if I go into a room, it's been like exasperated since I've been
Yes.
pregnant, but like it's
Yes.
like, no, please put that
Yeah.
away. I made my poor mother-in-law when we went there over Christmas. She didn't even have candles lit. She just had them in her house. And I
House.
was like, those got to go into a different room that I'm not part of because they weren't lit. And I was like, oh my God, it's
Yeah.
so overwhelming.
They're so overpowering, and so many people now do candles a lot better. Like I know for my store, I vet everything I bring in terms of ingredients and also the brands I want to work with. There's people behind those brands. Like,
Mhm.
I want to support what they're doing. They have to be like, are they like good people to collaborate with? Are they, what is their vision for what they're creating? A lot of people are creating candles now, and I know I had someone who creates these beautiful candles out of Quebec, and it's a soy-based candle, but it's
Mhm.
also it's synthetically fragranced, and on their label it said phthalate-free fragrance. Well, it's like, how do you know it's phthalate-free? Like, how do you know that, right? So for me, before I brought them in, it's like, I want to see the certification,
Mhm.
right? Before
That
I'm
makes
going to
sense,
carry
yeah.
them. I want to see it with my own eyes. What makes your fragrance phthalate free versus all the other candles, that you could pick up at any store? And they emailed it through.
Perfect, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I do appreciate the brands that are really trying to, do a lot
Yeah.
better because of their own personal reasons or because they're like, "Hey, we know that the people want this." So,
Yes.
on that topic, I would love to know if you could even we'll get a little bit more micro into different categories, but,
Mhm.
maybe even your top favorite Canadian brands when it comes to, let's say, skincare, hair care, and
Makeup.
maybe even
Yeah.
makeup. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good question. So I'll start with makeup. There's a couple of different brands that I work with, and I put them in my kit. I do all my services, photo shoots, events with that type of makeup. And I would say the first one is Pure Anara that comes out of Manitoba. And they are, they have everything. They have everything. You want to do skincare through them, makeup. I do their makeup. And I've been working with them for a very long time. And they are a wonderful company. They're wonderful people. And their staff is really nice. So even coming from a professional standpoint, I had heard so many negative things about mineral makeup. Oh, it doesn't work. Oh, there is no pigment. I used to work for Makeup Forever. That is all about pigment. So I get it. I understood what they said. But when I reached out to Pure Nata and they sent me some samples to try, I was just like, who is giving this bad rep to the mineral makeup? The pigment is amazing. And, for me, I'm using it in a professional fashion. But for women who want to apply makeup, it's a fantastic brand and amazing prices. Okay, so that's one. I also have another brand, which I love their lipsticks, and that's also out of Manitoba. They're called Tin Feather. I love their lipsticks. I use them, in my kit. They're beautiful hydrating creams, with lots of made with plant oils and plant butters, very nourishing, and they are flat, like flat meaning matte. But not drying, because matte sometimes gives us the kind of like the idea that it could be drying for makeup. And then for brows and lashes and all that, I use Plume Science, which is out of Alberta. And they've done a phenomenal, job. I use like their brow pomade. They have a lash growth mascara, eyeliner, all that stuff. So it's like eyes and brows for them. And that's, I carry that brand. And then for skincare, my goodness, again, my shop goes from BC to Quebec when it comes to all my brands. I haven't reached the East Coast, Megan, so you might have to send me some local suggestions.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple in, what's a surprising place is New Brunswick seems to have a lot of skincare and makeup companies
Yeah.
coming out of it that's been like, oh, this is
Okay.
like fun.
Yeah. I love it. We'll have to keep it in touch on that. So and again, I know that female consumers are so different with what they like, the textures they like, the smells they like. So of course, everything I bring in is not synthetically scented, essential oils, of course. And also, natural ingredients have their own smell, right? They do. Like shea butter has its own smell, right? So I have a small organic brand that's out of BC, and I've been working with her since 2000, probably 17, 2018. I launched my e-commerce, and it's called Helena Lane, and it's fabulous. Completely like no preservatives. She does things in such small batches, and also with really short ingredient lists. Because when you flip over the packaging and you see like 40 ingredients, you're like, oh my God, like at some point you're going to stop scrolling through and you're not going to be even looking at what's in there. But she does things very, very small, like 4 or 5 ingredients, even in her moisturizers, no water at all. So for anyone listening, this is a bit of education for you. If you see water in your ingredient, the first thing you're looking at is what is it preserved with? So for her, she doesn't use water, so she doesn't need a preservative. They're just pure butters for the face. She does beautiful mists. So that's one out of BC's, Helena Lane. And then I have some Ontario brands and Quebec brands. So Graydon Skincare out of Toronto. She's amazing. I've watched her grow in the past 5 years. She's doing wonderful things. Same with Etymology that comes out of Quebec. There's a lot of really nice brands out there, but again, it has to be right for you. Like the texture has to be right for you. So for example, if you're, choosing someone like Helena Lane, your skin has to be dry. Like Megan, you would be the perfect candidate because her stuff is so rich and you need a small amount. But if you are acne prone, if you prefer like a lighter formulation, something lighter on your skin, and that again, that's personal preference, then you would have to go for a brand that kind of caters to that, that has the lighter, almost like a gel cream. And different textures are attractive to different people, right? So then you would go for someone like Graydon, right? Or Cocoon Apothecary that comes out of Kitchener, Ontario. They've been around since 2006, when no one even probably knew what organic and natural was. So these guys have been making products for a very long time, and they just recently became Cosmos Organic certified and got into the Bay. So there's so many Canadian brands doing beautiful things, you know.
No, I
Yeah.
love that so much, and I can totally appreciate different brands are kind of known for like this brand is really great for
Yes.
drying skin or mature
Yeah.
skin. Uh,
Right.
um, but one of the ones I wanted to talk about too with you,
Hmm.
because I feel like you're the perfect person, is skincare and makeup. I feel like we have a little bit more variety when it comes to green beauty, but hair
Yeah.
care is one of those things that I did a poll a little while ago asking what people use for like a clean shampoo and conditioner. And like people were like, honestly, I just use the toxic shit because I don't even know what a good clean skin
Yeah.
or hair care is because I've used one, it doesn't do anything, or I actually
Yeah.
don't even know one that that
Yeah.
even exists for some people. So,
Yeah.
is there any, like, hair brands that you
Yes.
recommend?
Definitely. Yes. So, full transparency. I know a few different Canadian hair care brands, but as a professional in the beauty industry and someone who has an e-commerce, the line I wanted to choose to bring in had to have everything. Okay, and I know that makes me sound picky, but let me explain. What I mean is, like, look at my hair. My hair is curly, right? I have clients who have thinning hair. I have clients with colored hair. I have clients who need all the curly things, like the texturizing cream, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? The spray, the gel, come on, we need all those things. So when I looked in Canada, I couldn't find that brand. So the only American brand I carry on my website is Inner Sense. And Inner Sense comes out of California, but they have it all. They have the salt spray. You know what I'm saying? They have the deep hydrating mask. They have the detox mask. They have the texturizing cream, color shampoo, color conditioner, um, shampoo and conditioner for really thick, coarse hair. So I wanted to just have, I didn't want to mess around and be like, okay, so I'm going to have like 10 brands for hair. I wanted one brand that's clean. This brand was created by two professional hairstylists who decided to create their own line when they had children with high sensitivities, kind of like my son, and they would go home just smelling from the hair salon. It was on their clothes, their hair, like, and their children, reacted. So it is a professional line, and I was looking for something like that. Now, do my kids use Inner Sense? No, it's nicer brand that I keep for myself. Okay, especially their gel for my curls and stuff like that. So for my children, there is no, I think it's Quebec brand called Oneka, so Oneka, and they have wonderful shampoos and conditioners, and that's what's next to our tub for everybody to use, right? Like, that's the other thing too. I don't like clutter. I don't want to have, okay, fine, I have my own shampoo and conditioner, but we can't have everyone in the family doing that. And sometimes I alternate. It's good sometimes to alternate. You put one shampoo aside, jump into something else. Your hair will bounce up nicely, and it gets used to, you using the same product. So I would probably say, yeah, like those two brands are the best for us. And Oneka also has really beautiful soap, shower gel. They do it, of course, unscented. They do the citrus, they do the lavender. So a little bit of everything. And my kids now, the oldest one that, showers by himself, like, yeah, they love it. They have it now. They have an opinion about that too, right? They're going to be the only little boys in their class that have like opinions about all these products. But yeah, so those are the brands that I have chosen to use. Onica, I know, depending on where you live, is also refillable, which is fantastic, and it can work for a lot of hair types. If you have a family and you want to keep it simple. And then, if you want something a little bit more professional, you could go to something like Inner Sense and choose like, your styling products. I feel like those have to perform. Or maybe you choose like a deep hydrating mask to use once a week. Maybe it doesn't have to be everything. So lots of choices there. I don't carry Onica, but I do carry Inner Sense.
Yeah, amazing. No, I was scoping that out before and I was like, "Oh, I've heard of this brand." So I was,
Yeah,
doing my research on it. But yeah, hair care was one of those things where everyone's like, "If you find one that works, let me know," because all I know is like drugstore stuff. And I mean,
yeah.
I went to my parents over the holidays, and my mom, all she had was like, she was very proud of herself, but she had like the sulfate-free Pantene. And I gotta say, I don't use that stuff at home, but after I was like, "Oh my god, my hair feels like I know it's the silicones, but it feels
Yes,
amazing."
totally. Yeah. And again, Megan, back to the fragrance.
Yeah.
Back to the fragrance, back to the synthetic fragrance, because when you haven't used that stuff in a while and you put it on, you're like, like the whole shower, it's overwhelming, right? So, if I could give you one recommendation, one thing to start looking out for and removing would be synthetic fragrance. And my other tip would be, if a product says unscented on it, please flip it over and read the ingredients. You'll be shocked to know that I did this with a bar of Dove soap I was buying some years back. So Dove soap, yeah, bar soap, it says unscented on the front. And then you flip it over and you look at the ingredients, and right there, fragrance.
Mhm.
And it's shocking to know that a lot of the fragrance ingredients are still added in, and they like, what they do is they kind of block your brain from sensing fragrance. So it actually has fragrance, but you're not smelling it. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's mind-blowing when you start to like learn some of the things to look out for and you flip it on the back. Like I
Yes.
remember getting a sample of, I think it was like La Roche-Posay, and
Yeah.
it's a European brand, it's supposed to be good. And I think it was literally like the fifth ingredient, it was mineral oil. And I was like, "Isn't this a French
Yeah.
company? Like, why are we using this
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a
Again,
balm?" And yeah,
petrochemical. Yeah.
yeah.
Petrochemical. Like, can you not use something else? Choose avocado, coconut. I don't know. We have so many different oils. Just use something else. But it's cheap. The stuff that comes out of the
Mhm.
petrochemicals out of the petroleum industry, it's cheap. That's what it is. And yeah, you just really have to be diligent with that. You need to look on your own. Like, I couldn't give you just one solution right now that would help you with everything. But that positioning that you mentioned, where is the ingredient on the list? You need to pay attention to that. The
Mhm.
fragrance usually is at the very bottom. So it will be easy for you to find. Okay. Look at the top. Okay. Water. Okay. Look at the bottom. What's the preservative? Because it has water. What is their fragrance? But then other things. So let's say this cream that you're using has on the front, like, made with avocado oil. And you flip it over and you're like, where is the avocado oil?
Bottom, like it's the
Yes,
last one,
you're
yeah.
looking, yes, you're looking at it and you're like, oh my goodness, it's at the bottom. So they've added like 2 drops of avocado oil and then they put it on the top, on the front of the box for marketing purposes.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah,
higher up
no,
on the list, the bigger the percentage.
yeah. I know it's like the whole industry. It's to me it's amazing that it's like that there's some person up there who's put yeah, it's fine, and you're like you have to know that what you're doing is not ethical. It may not
Yeah,
be rule breaking or like directly causing anybody cancers, but you have to know that it's not
yeah.
ethical to be greenwashing these products.
It's so hard, Megan. This is like a multi-million-dollar industry, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. You gotta, pay attention, and like, who are the people who are, preaching this stuff, or the brands who are really trying. And a lot of these brands are like smaller and like family owned. For example, like Oneca, they have their own essential oils, they have their own farm. You know what I'm saying? So we really have to pay attention where our dollars go. You're going to
Mhm.
pay with your dollars in the end. It's like you're voting for this, the brands. And for me, when I chose to to do all Canadian, it's like I can tell you who the owners are of all these brands. So Candice in BC, and then like Lauren in Alberta, and then like, Candice, Helena in BC, Candice in Manitoba, Kirsten in Manitoba, like Graydon, her name is Graydon. She's a
Yeah.
real person. I've met her. That is important to me as a female and someone in the beauty industry. This is who I want to support. I could have anybody in my shop, but I choose to support them.
Yeah. I would love if you could give, you don't have to give like all the products, but if
Yeah.
someone is struggling with, let's say what we could do like a dry skin, an
Yes.
acne prone, mature, and maybe we'll
Yeah.
do like a pregnancy. Like, are there certain
Yes.
products or brands that you're like, definitely go to this one over here?
Definitely. Okay, so let's talk about dry and dehydrated because it's winter and we live in Canada. Unfortunately, not the Bahamas. If we were living in the Bahamas, Megan, you and I would be having a completely different conversation. But we live in Canada and it's dry and it's cold for most of the year. So if you have dry skin, you've always had dry skin. It doesn't change in the summer, in the spring. It doesn't change. You were probably born with less oil glands than the rest of us, and you will always have dry skin, dry, flaky, skin that you cannot get it to feel better with just anything. Okay, dehydrated, that's me, that's most people in Canada. And we always talk about hydration and water. Drink water, drink water. Your skin also needs topical hydration. So if you're dehydrated, it changes with the seasons. Does that make sense? So you might feel okay in the summer, but then the fall, that transition into winter, you're like, oh my goodness, what's happening? Okay, the heat is on. That affects people. Most of us are inside the house for a long time, and then we go outside and it's freezing. So if you have dry skin, you need fat. So I'm going to make it very simple. You need a nice oil, like a facial oil. You need like one of those moisturizers from Helena Lane, the richer, fatty stuff, okay? Because your skin is not producing that. So that would not be my recommendation, obviously, for someone who has oily. And, if you have dry skin, you need to have something richer. And if you're someone who has dry skin and acne, because it happens, that means you're super sensitive, reactive. Your skin is dry, but you're not giving it anything in fear that it's going to make your acne worse, right? So I would say an oil. And not all oils are created equal. Like you can, if you do have a little bit of acne, you could choose a lighter oil. You could go for something like argan or jojoba, which is very similar to our kind of, oil, skin oil that we produce. And if you have, more mature skin and you're definitely dry, but don't have breakouts, you could do rose hip, right? You could do that. There's so many options out there. And just be very gentle with how you cleanse and quit stripping your skin like 2 times a day. Wash once a day, only at night, and then nourish your skin with a bit of oil if you're not already doing that. So that's dry. For dehydrated, you need water. So you need hydration. If you're dehydrated, buy like 3 mists and put them everywhere around the house next to your water bottles that should also be planted around the house, right? So you could be drinking and misting. All right. So you need more water on your skin. That's where the hyaluronic acid and those kind of more watery serums come in, and the mist. Okay. Over makeup, under makeup, you can mist at any point and just bring more hydration to your skin, and then apply a moisturizer to kind of like lock it all in. All right. This hyaluronic serum, it will do nothing for you if it's -10 outside. Right. So you need to have that little layer on top, finish with your moisturizer, lock it all in. So that's dry and dehydrated. For acne prone skin, stop attacking it. Stop being like, okay, I'm going to get you. Try to calm it down. Stop being aggressive with it. Stop using aggressive things. Do not scrub. Do not exfoliate. Do not do any of those things. And just be very gentle and keep it simple. So you need a gentle cleanser. Again, once a day, a gentle cleanser that's not going to dry it out even more. I find a lot of times people with acne skin have really sensitive skin. It's calling to you, hello, I'm not happy. I don't like it, what you're doing to me. So try to calm it down, soothe it, gentle cleanser, ingredients like silver. For example, I carry a brand that's just from outside of Toronto. One of their very first products was like a clarifying cream. It's a treatment that has silver in it, like micro silver. So there's ingredients that have been used, like, since antiquity, like silver, for antibacterial, microbial purposes. So there are like little treatments and stuff like that you can use, but stop bombarding it with everything else. Stay away from synthetic fragrance. Don't scrub it. Don't do anything. That just like spreads everything and makes it angrier and more irritated. And so acne, we did dry, dehydrated,
Maybe we
oily.
could do, yeah, and maybe even pregnancy and mature.
Yeah. So for oily, I've had, women in their 60s with oily skin. And for me, I'm always like, why is that? And of course, it's a little bit strange because when we get past 35 or 40, our skin kind of slows down and stops producing all those things. Like you need to have your skin produces oil. It's an organ. That's its job. Its job is to moisturize your skin. And if you're not going to do that yourself, it's just going to produce more oil because you're not giving it any. So it's just going to make its own. And it's always very interesting to me because it's like, why is your skin doing that? Why is it like overproducing oil? And I know it sounds so strange, but when I've put those people onto oil cleansing or an oil serum, they will message me back, oh my goodness, like, my skin is so much better. It's not as oily, right? You see, you're now nourishing it, and it's like, oh, I'm just gonna slow down and take it easy. I don't have to produce any of that now because you're moisturizing it properly. If you're gonna starve your skin, well, it's taking matters into its own hands. So for oily, like, again, don't starve it. Just you need to give it, some moisture somehow, a little bit, even if it's at night. Again, stop over cleansing it once a day, not in the morning. You don't need soap in the morning. Just splash water on your face when you're in the shower. And then just find, a moisturizer that has a little bit of something, a little nourishment, and an oil that's not going to feel heavy for you. Like I mentioned before, jojoba based, something like that, and start doing a few drops, pressing it into your skin. And I guarantee you that it's going to really stop producing all that oil. And for pregnancy, I would say it's safer to just stay with the unscented stuff. If you are, pregnant, you can use the skincare that you're using unless you're noticing changes to your skin. Like, so let's say pregnancy is making you break out. So then you're going to need to bring in a little bit of treatment for those areas. Even like a little roller, in my shop, Cocoon Apothecary makes a little, roller for, to kind of like zap breakouts. So you have to kind of just see how the pregnancy, what it does to your skin, I guess. Right. And just take care of yourself, because when the little one comes, there's going to be less time for all of that. Do all the baths, take care of yourself, go get a facial, do all that nice stuff for yourself now. Okay. And for mature, it would be very similar to dry. I've actually just recently created some bundles in my shop to just make it super easy for everyone. So for me, I'm in my mid 40s, and I've created some skin bundles to take care of the issues that we have as we get into perimenopause and menopause. And, a lot of what we talked about now, dry, dehydrated, acne prone, sensitive, overreactive skin or reactive skin, all of those are still happening when we are in our mid 40s and then going into menopause, like in our 50s, let's say. So I've created the bundles that are specifically for those concerns. There's a bundle for hormonal breakouts, for dry, for, mature, but also for, with mature skin, we're also dealing with like sun damage, stuff like that. This is when you'll start seeing it on your skin. So it comes out now because it's in the deeper layers of the skin. So if you didn't use SPF when you were 20, now you're going to start seeing the sunspots. So those are some other concerns that people, might have, especially with the sun damage as we get older. So with mature skin, it just depends on what you're suffering with. And it also depends on your lifestyle. Like, are you a smoker? You might have a completely different skin issues, or are you someone who has never worn sunscreen on their face, or are you someone who, when those hormones start going up and down, and they do in puberty and they do when we're pregnant, this is not the first time. It's another stage that this might happen. Then you might have be dealing with acne, in your mid to late 40s, early 50s, which would be hormonal and usually, around your jaw, around the mouth area and jaw.
Yeah. I would actually love, I want to be mindful of your time, but I wanted to,
Yeah.
you brought up something that I was like, oh, I should ask about this, is the idea of like chemical versus physical sunscreen. And I've
Mhm.
always been, this was actually brought up from my husband. And
Yeah.
when we were first starting dating, I was very like, got to do the sunscreen. There's a lot of skin cancer in my family. And I remember him saying, "Ooh, like I don't do the chemical stuff because there's something about putting it on your skin, being out in the sun and it heating up and then being absorbed, all those chemicals into your body." And I was like, "Oh, I never thought of that." But you hear a lot of dermatologists
Yeah.
preaching it and like,
Yeah.
physical sunscreen isn't as powerful or all this. And I'm just curious what your thought is. And, maybe you're like, no, what you're saying is like totally out of line. It's not going to happen. But in my head, I'm like, that makes sense. Like,
Yeah. Okay. So listen, he wasn't far off. Okay. So he wasn't far off. So tell him I said that. So what happens is the reason it's called a chemical sunscreen, it's not because it has chemicals in it. Like everything is a chemical. Water is a chemical. Okay. So let's get that off, from the beginning here. Put that aside. So the reason it's called a chemical sunscreen is because the way that it protects you is through the chemical ingredients. So what happens, as he said, is that, how everybody says, oh, you got to apply it 15 minutes, 20 minutes before you go out. You're exactly right. It has to be absorbed into your skin before it protects you from the inside out. Okay. So yes, it has to be absorbed. Of course, that's why we have to wait 15 minutes. So that's the chemical sunscreen. Okay. And that's like all the ingredients you hear about, the avobenzone, the homosalate, all those things, right? And the other one, well, the mineral sunscreen is a physical sunblock. So chemical sunblock has to be absorbed. Those sunscreen ingredients have to be absorbed into your skin in order to protect you. The physical sunscreen, it doesn't have to be absorbed. It can just sit on the top, and it's a physical barrier. The minute the rays hit, they just bounce off. They're reflected off. So they protect you in completely two different ways. Do they both work? Yes. Do you need to have either one of them on? Yes, you do. I don't care which one, just put it on, okay? Because you're going to start seeing the damage and stuff like that later in your life. You're going to get burnt and everything else. So photo aging, skin cancers, etc. So whatever your personal choice is, just put it on and put the right amount and reapply. Because I just put it on like, I don't know, like 5 hours ago. Yes, I'm wearing an SPF 95. Yeah, I don't need to reapply it. And it's like, nah, I don't think so. Okay, so you have to reapply it and you have to use enough. Like I did a demo on a video of how much quarter of a teaspoon is, so as women, I've had all these questions coming to me. Oh, like my foundation has SPF. And I did this video of me applying quarter of a teaspoon of foundation just to show people how much it is. And it's ridiculous. I did like a reel and then I put it on YouTube. Like I was covered in foundation. And that's how much SPF you need. So if it's in your foundation, fantastic, great for you. You're double protected, but you need to have that other SPF on first. A quarter of a teaspoon, enough. Don't forget your ears, a lot of ear cancers, right? Skin cancers on the ears. Get it on, and then put your foundation on. And then, well, I mean, if you're out there, like, I'm sorry for that foundation, but you're going to have to reapply, right? So it's a little bit more complicated for women. Like everybody else, just put it on, and hour and a half, 2 hours, you need to be reapplying. And,
Perfect.
you know, if you just a little glimpse into the SPF, because I find that the people usually who go for a higher SPF are a little bit more lazy with reapplying. And that's why I made the joke earlier, like, I'm wearing like an SPF 100. No, I'm sorry. Those are the people who are going to get burned. And the protection is so small. So just to give you an example, an SPF 30 filters out 97% of the sun rays. And an SPF 50 filters out 98. It's 1%. And if you go to like a higher SPF, like what is it going to be? 99? It doesn't make a difference. Just get a 30, get something you like, and apply it. And then just don't forget to reapply.
Perfect. No, thank you so
Mhm.
much for speaking all of that. I want to be mindful of your time, but
For
before I
sure.
send everybody to check you out, maybe to get one of your consultations, just to follow you online and all of that good
Mhm.
stuff, I wanted to ask, it does not have to be related to green beauty at all. It can be, but is there a book, podcast, or resource that has brought you incredible value in your life that you want to leave with the audience?
Oh my goodness. What a question. Um, there are, you know, and you mentioned before the app, right? I think I want to tell people, like, if you're going to be using the app, like the EWG or Think Dirty, always be mindful that the way they make money is by selling you other products, right? So just be
True.
mindful with that. I played around with those apps too, the environmental, you know, the environmental, oh my goodness, what
Working
is it called?
group. Yeah.
Working group. Thank you, Megan.
The
Yeah.
EWG.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, like same thing. So, you know, if you're doing your own research and stuff like that, I mean, I always go to like government websites. I love reading, you know, blogs and information that Healthline does. Um, I was also featured on one of those on the benefits of avocado, but you know, they're doing things really well. They have so much information. I mean, you plug in any question like eczema, anything like that, healthline.com would be one of the higher ones that comes up. So I would just say, like, you know, pay attention to who's writing the pieces that you're reading. What is their expertise? What is their, you know, education position that makes them, you know, someone to consult? So that would be one. And, you know, for books, the type of books that I like to read are like the ones that kind of give me, you know, like lots of ideas on how to do things more simply at home, or they teach me more about ingredients, stuff like that. So they are a little bit boring. Like I have a dictionary on cosmetic ingredients.
I
Do
love
not
it.
go, do not
No,
go
I
by
love it.
that. Do not go by that. It's also because I come from an education background and a linguistics background. So I love that. And you know, I think for the apps, yeah, I mean, they are really great when you look into it, but just be mindful as well that don't be upset at all your products because they're rating it badly. I have, you know, other friends who are you know, environmental engineers that have looked into it. It's like those numbers are not really based on a lot. So just be mindful with that, with what you're looking into. And podcast, there's one, I believe it's called Mindful, I forget the name now, like Mindful Green. You know, I'm not really a person who walks around listening to podcasts a lot. I do kind of go into them sometimes and do pay attention. But you know, like when I'm at home, I'm recording or creating content, and then the kids are home, and there goes that. So yeah, what little time I have, I always try to put it into, like, you know, journaling or doing some yoga or meditation for myself. But yeah, there is one podcast, I believe it's called Mindfully Green, something like that. I'll have to check it out and confirm that with you, Megan. I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly the name.
That's okay. No, this has been such a great conversation. You've given us so many good tips and so much of
Thank
your
you.
knowledge. I appreciate it so much. If people want to check you out online, maybe follow you online, or maybe they want to order some of the products from your store, where can everybody go
Mhm.
and find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm at Green Beauty, Green Beauty Curator. Same with Facebook, Green Beauty Curator, and the website is greenbeautycurator.ca. And yeah, it's service based and product based. So if you need any help, like streamlining your products, not you don't know what to get, like that can get expensive, reach out to me, or book a little session with me and we can jump on a Zoom call, which I always then provide the recording for, because it's nice to have it as a reference. And I can help you sort things out on there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Maria, thank you so much for this conversation. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much, Megan. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you having me.